Awesome. So before the break, we talked about functions, and then we talked about different types of data that you can have. So dictionaries, tuples. One thing that we didn't mention is something called a set. So set, not a lot of people use this unless you want. So a set is basically a list, but it is a list that does not allow for duplicates. So if you have a use case that you need a list and you can't have duplicates in it, you should use a set. So to define a set, you will use curly braces, which is a little confusing because of the dictionaries. But the thing that's different is you don't have a key pair value, a key value pair. So you don't have keys and values separated by a colon. You just have elements. So you can have numbers, strings, stuff like that. So if you're defining it, this will do that. If you are just defining an empty set, it will not work to define it like this. This will automatically think it's a dictionary. And if you're trying to add to it, then it won't let you. So you can define a set like this, and you can also define a set from an existing list. So let's say we have my list, 1, 2, I'm just putting random numbers. I do want to have some duplicates in there. So 5 and then 1, okay. So if you want to create a set out of this, you would do S equals set. And then this set will then take the list that you have. So you can send a list into this function. Actually, this is a class constructor. We'll talk about that next week. But basically, you can define a set using this existing function. So if I print out my list before, and then I print out the set that I created, I'm gonna call this S2 because we have an S here. And then we print this out. We should see that the duplicates were removed. So if I run this, I do have quite a bit of things that are printing. But this is the existing list that we had. And then when we defined it as a set, it removed all of the duplicates in that list. So that is sometimes useful when, like I said, you need to have no duplicates. And if you want to convert a set back to a list, you can cast it. So this is basically casting it. So casting it from a list to a set, you can put it back into a list, and then we'll see that here, instead of curly braces, it will go back to being square brackets. So if we do that, we see here, now it's a list again, but the duplicates were removed. All right. What determined the order? I think set is automatically ordered. So, yeah. Oh, no, it didn't. It's not automatically ordered. It's ordered up until here. That's weird. I didn't notice that. I will have to look into that. I'm not 100% sure why it was only ordered up until here, and then 43 was before 24. Remind me later. I'm gonna look into it. Or if anyone wants to Google it real quick. All right, any questions? I know there was a question earlier. Ho-Sung, you were asking the single star instead of the double star. So the single star for the functions, if you use a single star, it'll allow you to insert as many values as you want as the function parameter. So this will just take regular elements. So it'll take strings, it'll take lists, dictionaries, stuff like that. But if it's a double star, you're going to want to, let me copy over the old way that it was. This might be a little confusing. For the double star, you have key value pairs. So instead of having just actual elements, you're specifying that Dan is a name, 20 is an H. And then when it comes into here, you have access to both the name of the key and the value itself. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm going to assume that's yes. All right. I'm going to start a new one just because there's a lot of commented out code in here. So for loops are just loops and conditionals. There we go. So how do we write if statements? So in Python, let's define a function. To write an if statement, you don't need parentheses after the if. So you can say if, let's say we have, we want to figure out if someone can is of age to drink. So let's say age is 22. Okay. So if age, so in the United States, what is the age?
21.
21. So what would be the condition here?
If age is greater than or equal to 21, can drink.
Mm-hmm. We can either, let's put this into a function actually. So let's define and drink. Then we can put this in here. So here we're going to need to send in an age, and we're going to, let's say, send in a country of where that person lives. So if age is greater than or equal to 21 and country equals two equals USA, then we can return true. There we go. And then if we want to call this function and drink, we'll send in, let's say, 22 and USA. So in this case, it should return true. We can print out what this returns. So we can print the entire result of this, or we can put it into a variable and then just print. So print results. I'm running the wrong file. Python loops. Python 3 loops. There we go. So it printed out true. So the difference is we don't have the parentheses around the conditions. So you just start if, you start your conditionals, and then you say if you want to do comparison of like and or stuff like that, instead of doing the actual and symbol, You can just type and. If you want to do or, you can do or. Yeah, I think those are the basic ones right now. There's a few more later. So I don't know if it, no, I think that's it. Let's say country. Some states or countries let you drink them at younger ages. Yeah, so I think like Canada allows you to be over 18. So let's say in general, everywhere is 21 except for Canada. So we can modify this and say if you're over 21, then it would be true. Or we can say age is greater than or equal to 18. But this would have to be with the country that is specified. So country equals Canada. Yeah, so this will do, and comment this one out. So we can do the same thing with Canada, but have it age 18. And we still get true. So even if we commented this one out, there we go. So it'll evaluate the and. I'm not sure why it is evaluating this. In some other languages, you would have to specify, like you would have to put these in parentheses, so these get evaluated together, and then it will evaluate this against this entire thing. To do an else if, it's elif, so ELIF. If country equals Antarctica, apparently they don't have any laws about this, so it will always be true. So there's no age limit. And then our last condition could be an else, so we would just do this, and then we can return false. So these are the only conditions, let's say, that are allowed. So if we try to print out and drink, let's say age 6 in Antarctica. Apparently that is allowed. So yeah, so this is just the basic syntax of an if statement. Oh, the third one, so you have and, you have or, and you have not. So if you wanted to check if something is not something, you would just type out not instead of doing the exclamation point. Let me see. Mason, logical, and in Python has a higher level of precedence than or. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So if we go to I have my up here. Okay. Python operator precedence. It's probably the wrong one. I'll just look at one of these. These are operators, maybe, what are they called? I forgot. It's okay, I'll find it later. But basically, logical operators, that's what it's called. So logical operators are and or not, stuff like that. So here, operation priority, this is the least, this is the most. So the not will always be evaluated first and will then be evaluated next and then or afterwards. So it's similar to the actual operators. So the plus, you remember, I think it was like PEMDAS or something, like parentheses, exponent, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Okay, let's go back to the code. Any questions around if statements, the way they're structured, stuff like that? No. Okay. Let's move on to loops. So like other languages, Python has for loops and it has while loops. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Python has a like match case operator. We will see that tomorrow. We're going to do a little bit more of like intermediate Python tomorrow. To mass comment out code, you can just select it all and then hit Command/, and that will do that. I can do select, like Command A for select all, and then you can do Command/, which will comment out your code. Okay. Oops. So let's say I have a list. Let's grab one of our other lists from in here. I like this list. Okay. So if I want to iterate through this list, the syntax is for, and then you give it a variable name. So this is going to be a list of berries. So I'm going to name it berry. In berries, then you hit the colon. And now it'll just loop through every single item. So if I wanted to print out berry, this will print out every single one of them. There we go. Let's say we want to loop over a range of numbers. So Python has this cool syntax, or this cool function called range. So this function will allow you to give it a number and it will stop right before that index. So let's say I wanted numbers from 0 to 10. Then I would have to say range 11. So it'll stop right before the 11. And then if I print X, this out. See, it doesn't like not having anything inside the indentation if you're opening a for loop. So here I'm just going to put pass for now. And there we go. So for X in range 11, it gives you 11 numbers basically starting from 0. So if you want the number 10 included, you would have to go to 11. So if you wanted, let's say this similar thing, but you don't want it to start at 0, you want to start at 4. So you can do a start index, a stop index. And if we print this out, it'll start at 4 and then stop at 10. Let's see what else. For this, you can also do it in reverse order if you'd like for range. So let's say I wanted to start at 20. Yeah, actually, before I do the reverse order, I'm going to talk about what you're talking about, Daniel. So If I'm going from 4 to 11, but I want to go every 2 elements instead of just every 1, I can just put 2 here. So the third argument is allowing an index. So if I do this, it'll go 4, 6, 8, 10. If I increase it to 3, it'll go 4, 7, 10. So you can do that. You could also do it in reverse order. So if you wanted to start at a higher index and go lower, let's say we're going to start at 20. I want to stop at 1, or if I want to stop at 1, I will have to put 0 here. And then to go backwards for your steps, you would have to put a negative something. So if you want to just go back 1, you put -1. If I print it out, here we go. So it started up here at 20, and then it went all the way down, counted down. And you can do the same. You can add like by 5. So now 20, 15, 10, and 5. Yeah, so these are pretty cool functions that you'll probably use quite a bit. Any questions? Okay. So let's say you're looping through a list, and it's cool to have the actual variable name, right? Or the actual element that's in here. What if you want the index of that variable? You want to know, like, is this index 0? Is this index 5? So to do that, you can do for vary. So let's say we're going to copy this one. We're going to do something similar. But there's this function in Python called enumerate. It's with an E, not an I. Enumerate. Okay. So enumerate, when you give it a list, it will give you, so this is in. Okay. So it will spit back an index and the element itself. So here I would capture it this way. So this enumerate will return an iterable. So it's useful for obtaining an indexed list. So it will return the index first and then the value at that index here. So if I wanted to print vary an index, it will print it out. So it goes through the list, each element, it prints out, it grabs the index as well. So notice here when I'm printing, if you put a comma between 2 elements, that is part of the print function, and it sees that it has multiple variables, so it automatically adds a space. If I were to do just a plus, this is string concatenation. This will add this thing to this thing, and it will smush them together, so there's not going to be any space. It will be as it is. So if I printed this out, oh, you can only concatenate a string onto a string. Can someone tell me what I would do to this integer to transform it into a string?
You would, yeah.
What? I didn't hear.
Cast it.
Mask it. How would I do that?
It was string and then parentheses around index.
Yeah. So we're typecasting it pretty much. So we're changing its type from an int to a string. And now if we do this, it's able to print it out. So it adds it to the end. Those are just 2 different ways of creating things. And if you were using concatenation and you do want an empty string, you can do this way. So just add literally a space and add. And that will go back to something similar. Okay. Let's say, so now that we've iterated through lists, I think this is a good amount of like functionality with lists. Let's say we want to iterate through the items of a dictionary. So we have a dictionary that has a food and how you feel about that food. So the way to iterate through this is for key in my dictionary. If I know, since I know what is in this dictionary and these are foods or food items, I can just call this food item. That way it's more descriptive. So for food item in the dictionary, I can print out my food item, comma, let's say I want like a colon. And then we can print out this value. So how would I access the value? So I have my dictionary and I have the key. How can I access the value?
My dick braces and then the food item.
Exactly. So my dictionary, square brackets, and then food item. So food item is going to be the key. And this should return. There we go. Like it is here. Donuts, yummy. Green beans, icky. This is not accurate. I love green beans. But okay. So this is how you access the keys and values. If you wanted to just iterate through the values themselves, so you didn't care about this, the first part of it, you don't care about the keys, you can do for value in my dictionary dot values. The values is just going to return the actual value. You can print the value itself. So there it only prints out the second part, the value. If you want to iterate through and grab the key and the value, I think this is how in my dictionary dot items. Let's see if it works. Then we can print the comma value. Let's see if we get an error. Ah, it worked. So if you want both the key and the value and you don't want to do the square bracket notation, you can use the dot items function to just return both of them, similar to the enumerate, where it gives you the variable and the index. Yeah, you can do the items and it will return both key and value, so you can use them. Okay, any questions about dictionaries or for loops and looping through dictionaries and lists? I want to test something out. So for character in some text, I believe this should also work. Yeah, there we go. So you can also loop through a string because a string is a list of characters. So you can loop through any sort of list. Okay. So these were for loops. The second one is the while loops. Same as JavaScript, while, but you don't have the parentheses that you need. So let's say we have a variable called x equals 9, while x is less than, I don't know, well, greater than probably. X is greater than 4. Print X. And what's something that we always have to remember in a while loop?
Decrement.
Increment.
Yeah, so basically we have to either increment or decrement. We have to change X. Since X is the condition, if X is greater than 4 and I don't change X inside of here, it's just going to be a continuous loop, an infinite loop. So it's just going to keep running. It's running. And then if I want to stop it, Control C, that interrupts the program and gets you out of the infinite loop. So I can say X. What am I going to be adding or subtracting here? How can I stop it?
Subtracting,
Yeah, why?
because you're waiting until, because X is 9 right now.
Mhm.
So you're waiting until X is gonna be less than 4.
Mhm. Yeah, because if I added 9 will become 10, which is still greater than 4, 11, so on. It's going to keep going and going. Daniel, sadly, we cannot do plus in Python, which is something I'm very sad about. I love using like just plus to add 1. So you can say X equals X plus 1, but the shorthand for this one is just X plus equals 1. If you wanted to subtract, X minus equals 1 to do that. Okay, so now if I run it, there it goes. It just stops. Okay, yeah, while loops are not too fancy, just the basics. Let's see. Last thing we're going to talk about is just some built-in methods. So a lot of most data types in Python have built-in methods that you can use, which we've already seen when we were talking about lists and dictionaries. We have like berries.insert, .remove, all of this fun stuff. Kind of already went through a lot of them. But let me show you a few other ones. So let's say name equals, give me a random name.
Jim Bob.
Love it. Okay, Jim Bob. Let's say I want to capitalize it. I can do name.capitalize. And this is a function. So let's see what it does. Capitalizes the first letter. So it just converts the first character to an uppercase. So if let me show you here. So if I capitalize it and I run name, so this function was run, and if I run this, we see that the actual name didn't change. So this is one of those functions that returns a new version, like a new copy of this name with the modifications added to it. It doesn't actually modify the original. So let's say name.replace. And if we want to replace, so the replace function allows you to replace a certain character with something else. So let's say I wanted to replace the M with some other string. So like, I don't know, just numbers and characters. So if I print name, it still doesn't actually change the name itself, which is good because that's sometimes not what we want. So new name equals, that's how you can capture it, and then you can print it out. There we go. It replaces the M with whatever string you sent in with it. And we've already seen the append. So if we had a list, we saw append, we saw a pop. There are some other functions. Let's see what other things we didn't talk about. In Python, there's a built-in length function. So if you want to see the length of an object, you can just send it in. So let's say I want to see the length of this name. Here's length of name. I did not print it. Six, and it makes sense. If we had a list, let's say we had a list up here, berries. If I wanted to see the length of berries, it'll give you the length of how many elements are in there, which is 7. And that is correct here, there's 7. Let's see, yeah, Jeremy.
Sarah, I was wondering if you could capitalize more than just the first letter, or is that just part of the function where it only does the first one?
There is, yeah, so that function specifically will only do the first one. I think there's a 2 capital function. I don't remember. Is it string dot capitalized, I think? So it's part of. No, but that was the same function.
Upper
I have to upper, or is it just upper?
is just dot upper.
There it goes. Thank you. So name dot upper, and I'm just going to print this so we can see. Oops, I lost it. There we go.
Awesome, thank you.
And there's also lower. So if it had any uppercase variable values, it would put everything to lowercase. This is especially helpful when you have input coming in from the user. So if you have input coming in and you want to compare that input to something else, you should probably make everything to either lower or upper based on how you're comparing them, just so you don't have to have like a lot of different cases. This is just much easier. Speaking of input, you guys have played around with getting input in Node, which is not too fun. But in Python, we just have input. And then you give it a prompt, which is the string that will pop up when it's ready to take an input. So here I'm going to say, please input your favorite number. And not spell today. Number. And then this input function is going to return whatever that input was. So you can capture it with a variable. So my input, or actually this is capturing the favorite number. So I'm going to say favorite number equals, and then I can print it out. You said just so we can see that was the input. So if I run this, it's going to say, please input your favorite number. If I wanted a little space here, like if I wanted to not have this attached to this, I would literally just add a space in this line. And if you wanted it to be on the next line, there is a new line character. So the same backslash or forward slash, sorry, an N that will give you a new line. So if I submit this, it spits it back out to me because that's what I inputted. I run it again. So now the input, the cursor is on the second line because I added this new line character. So that's just some formatting stuff. Let's see. So let me just put this. Cool. Let me show you guys this very cool website that I love. It is also linked in the at the bottom of the lesson today, right above the assignments. This is a Python cheat sheet, basically. It gives you the basics of everything. So this is just the absolute basics. So we have the print function that we talked about. Oh, we didn't talk about this, yeah. So let's actually go through it because we have a little bit of time. With the print function, you can set what you want it to end with if you wanted to print something. So built in, it ends with a new line. It ends with, like, it only prints on one line, and then the next time you call the print function, it will print on the next line. But if you wanted to have it like this, where you're looping through a bunch of words and then you're printing out the word and you don't want it to be on a new line every time, you can end it with a certain character. If you have a bunch of words that you're sending in with commas into the print function, you can add a separator. So instead of just having a space, it'll put whatever separator you specify. And that separator could be these characters, like the comma, space, dash, whatever, or it can be words, whatever you want to separate those certain words. Input, length, string, int, float. Similarly to how we so you can transform certain data types to other data types. If you try to do it on something that's not valid, it will not work. But basically, you can transform an int or a float into a string. You can transform a string into an int if it is a valid integer. And you can also transform a float that is a string into a float, as long as it's in float, like notation, basically. So if this had letters, this wouldn't work. This would give you an error. But yeah, this website is great. I would recommend going, like, kind of sifting through a few of these after working on the assignments, or while working on the assignments. There's also a bunch of built-in functions that we didn't really talk about all of them because there's so many. But yeah, I'm just kind of seeing if there's anything I should mention today. Yeah, don't worry about going through this. This is a little much. But yes, this is a great site to use. Any questions? We're pretty much done with our lesson content today. So we can see anything that you're interested in seeing. We can answer any questions. Yeah, whatever.
Is there a Quokka for Java or Python?
Is there a what, sorry?
Quokka? Quokka.
Chrome
Yeah,
what?
listed in the chat earlier. It's called Wolf.
Yeah, I can't get it to work.
What so you're using
Are you,
VS
are
Code,
you
right?
running it on
Yeah.
the same way that you would like enable Coca?
Yeah, so you guys are getting it to work. I'll keep messing with it.
You got
Yeah.
like the control P and then the greater than, and then type wolf.
Yeah, all right. I'll try to figure it out.
Yeah, honestly, don't rely on extensions too early on. If you start using extensions and then you end up in a work environment where they don't allow extensions, which a lot of them don't, they block those things, then you might have a little bit of a harder time, like, getting used to coding without them. But yeah, some of them are very helpful, like just having the basic like Python interpreter, just so you can see, like if you put dot and it gives you like all the options that you have and stuff like that. Those are very, very helpful. But yeah, any other questions? Oh, thank you. This is good. And Daniel, thank you for adding the Python list or the Python resource to the resources list. Yeah, this is the basic, like the comprehensive, this is the reference for the entire language. I think it's a little harder to parse, or not parse through. It just looks uglier, honestly. But the information in here is very good. This is the basic. Yeah. All right. Oh, actually, one thing that I didn't mention in loops, we'll probably see it tomorrow, but it'll be very helpful to see. So if you have a condition, let's say in this loop, and like, let's say you're looking for a certain item in here, and let's actually use the one that loops through the berries. Okay, so let's say I'm looping through the berries list and I just want to find, the berry that has the name cucumber. I really don't think cucumber is a berry. But let's say if berry equals cucumber, then let's say I want to break. So I want to break out of this loop. I don't want to continue on with the loop. So the break keyword allows you to stop pretty much. So if I had, let's say we're printing out, it's going to be interesting. So this is the part that it printed out before. So we want to basically stop at cucumber because we found it. So it's not going to print it out. It's just going to break, actually. Yeah, it will print it out. So if we loop through, now we see it went to grape, tomato, and then cucumber. It found cucumber, and then it did break. So break allows you to stop the loop. There is a keyword called continue, which means don't execute any of the code below this, just move on to the next iteration of the loop. So move on to the next item of the loop. Those are two useful keywords as well. I think that's all I have. Any other questions? All right. I also just found this. So in the cheat sheet, if you go to manipulating strings, this shows you the escape characters. So the characters that allow you to do special things in strings, pretty much like when you're trying to print, when you're trying to format strings. So if you want a tab, it's \T, new line, \N, like we saw. If you want an actual \, because \/ is a special character, you have to add 2 of them. Backspace, octal value, I've never used this. And carriage return, which is basically like an enter key. Click. And if you want to do multi-line strings, you put 3 quotes, and it allows you to format the string however you want to on the screen as well. Okay, I will stop talking now. Any last minute things?